Hi everyone, welcome back to the Obai Tori Stories. So today our topic is this. Teaching is an underrated skill, and let's discuss about it.
Yeah, why?
Okay, I think many people think that teaching is easy, right? You just go to the classroom, show up, teach whatever you plan for the day, give your students homework, and then be done for the day. But of course we know that that's not all that we do, right?
Yeah.
What are some things that teachers do outside of the classrooms?
You have to look for ideas. Idea generation is definitely one big part. Like, for example, you are thinking of a class and you are thinking how you want to portray this idea across to this child, and you want to make sure that the child can understand it from a very simple point of view and as practically as possible, but something that they can relate to in their real lives. Sometimes it can be as simple as a simple object, like using a ruler or something, whatever it is, a daily practical item.
So for you, it's idea generation, right? So like even before we can step into the classroom, we need to know what are some activities we want to have
There
for
you
our
go.
students,
Yes.
right? I think, but the whole point about it's not just about having ideas; it's about how to structure the activity
Yeah.
such that when you are to carry out the activity in the classroom, your students will know what the activity is about and how it helps to scaffold their learning, their understanding, so that
Yes.
by the end of the lesson, the student will know what exactly they have learned.
Yes, and scaffolding is really a lot of work. Like, I have scaffolded students' worksheets for the past 10 years, and I tell you, I have to write and write and write. That's why we use a lot of red ink.
But how does scaffolding work? I think for some of our non-teacher friends who might not understand how scaffolding would look like for a kid.
Yeah, so scaffolding is actually very it's a process where you have to write down for the child first what you must think. Step 1, step 2, then what do you think from there? Step 3, what do you do from there? Step 4, what do you do? And then in order to achieve the outcome that you actually initially had for the child, right? You have to write down these processes because children cannot grasp things like what is like a squared plus b squared equals c squared. What is that? I mean, that's actually Pythagoras' theorem lah. So if you are trying to explain that to a child, they need to know what your A is, what your B is defined as, and so on, and why you do such a thing. So you have to write this down step by step. First, you find the length of this part of the triangle, and then square it, and then you find the other side of the triangle, you square it, and then in order to get the square of the hypotenuse, right? So you have to list it out for them step by step because they cannot grasp things just by simply saying a squared plus b squared c squared. Go memorize.
I mean, that was how we were brought up, and that was how we were taught, right? Just memorize this formula. You will need to use it. But then we don't actually. I mean, some teachers will teach us why is it that that theorem is like that. But there are some people who will just say, I don't know how it's like. I don't know how it came about. Yes, I know it's Pythagoras' theorem, but this is the formula. Memorize it, use it. Full stop.
Yeah, so you have to think from a child's point of view what they already have learned before in primary school, and think about what they are going to learn after that, so that they can get this formula and understand its importance and how it's related to the past topics. So you do have to recall with them like what was done in the past. For example, area of triangles and so on and so forth. You have to recap like right angle triangles and things like that. You cannot just simply go, okay guys, this is your A, your B, your C. You have to like sort of think through what they have learned before. That's why there's so much work in teaching. There's a before class activity, there's a in-class activity, and then after the class, you also have to reflect and see whether or not you have managed to deliver your classes successfully.
Yeah, and whether your students have actually gotten the concept that you were trying to teach them.
Yes, and see whether everyone understood the class. And I think if they understand, I'm happy enough. But if they're inspired, it's even better. If they've taken home something more than that, or they can use it in their daily lives and go, oh, I see a right angle triangle there. I think I can apply the formula there. Or I can use it when I climb Mount Fuji. I can calculate the angle of incline. Oh, wow. Okay, that is very useful.
Yeah.
That's something that I think I feel heartened when I hear that from my students.
So teaching is, okay, so apart from teaching, scaffolding, what else do teachers do outside the classrooms that their students do not know about?
They don't realize that we are also trying to make sure that our lessons are interesting enough for them, because if we teach a lesson that's so dry, right, then no one's gonna listen to us. They're just gonna fall asleep. And I think like some students get bored because the way they see it is like, oh, I'm just here because my parents asked me to come to school lah, or have to lah. But deep down, they want to be playing games, okay, or like their Dota or whatsoever, right? So at the end of the day, I think teachers also have to think through how to make classes exciting. And we have airplanes flying by. Okay.
Again.
It's National Day coming up, so happy birthday in advance, Singapore. I see them. I just saw them fly by.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So, so teaching scaffolding and then preparing for class.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think are some of the things that people don't know about apart from all these things?
Qiu Ting, there's always a lot of things that we talk about with each other, about our students, about their behavior, about how sometimes they say upsetting things and sometimes they do things that make us go, what? They actually said that? Yeah, there are times when I can't believe this child who seems really innocent and young would say something about her siblings. And I think it sort of made me go like, actually kids are not that innocent, So yeah.
Actually, they think a lot also. So I think part of being a teacher for me, I feel initially was quite challenging, but I think I'm slowly getting a hang of it, right? Is that how are we going to help them process their emotions when they talk about something quite negative or quite difficult, right? Especially if they were to comment on something quite negatively and have very strong opinions about it. I think firstly we want to understand why they feel that way.
I know where you're coming from. Sometimes I am a therapist also to my students. I have to start to psychoanalyze them and analyze their actions, their reactions, their facial expressions, their tone of voice, their inflection, everything. Oh my God, there's so many things that go on in the class.
Yeah.
You actually realize that this is more than just teaching, This is also caring about another young, vulnerable, innocent person here that might be at risk of something greater if they decide to let that train of thought continue down that road. It can either go for the worse or go for the better. And you have to stop them at that point in time to correct them sometimes and just see whether or not they're thinking through what they are really seeing.
Yeah, so I think part of being a teacher is also kind of like being a listening ear to the students, right? Especially if they were to say something and they know and you know that they're saying it because you're around to hear it, then I think it's our choice to either listen to it and then after that talking to them about it. Either that or you can choose to ignore it and to walk away from it. So I think it's important also that as teachers,
The responsibility is on us.
Yeah, and listening. Oh, speaking of, since we're talking about teaching being an underrated skill, right? I think listening in general is underrated in our society.
Yes. There's some, you first.
I forgot what I want to say.
Okay.
Can you?
I really have something pressing to say. So there are times when I realize that my students see me as like the big sister because they've never had a big sibling before in their lives. So I'm the big sister who can advise them, who have gone through a lot of things. They cannot tell their parents about it because they know they'll get some form of reprimanding, right? So they come to you and then they ask you, what do you think? Or like they tell you the story about their friends and they don't know how to approach that friend anymore. So I become like the friend therapist Oh, okay, I have to advise them on relationships, friendships, especially how to deal with this friendship, navigate friendships and situations like that, which I've done before for a few of my students. And then I realized that I become like sort of a friend to them as well, because I have to help them understand what it's like to be a friend, a real friend. And also, if I find that there's bullying involved, I also have to handle that, because I have to learn to teach my students how to deal with that situation. I've never done that before at one point. At one point in my life, I've had to do that. And that was when I realized, wow, being a teacher is more than just teaching.
Yeah, which also boils down to, I mean, part of why students come up to certain teachers to talk about stuff is also because they feel like that particular teacher will actually listen and bother to listen. So listening is super underrated in our society. I wish people open their hearts, not just their ears, to listen more. And I think there's a difference between hearing and listening. I think a lot of us hear things. We hear what other people are telling us, but I think we're not really listening hard enough why that person is trying to tell us. Why did the person choose to tell us? And why is it that they tell us that thing? Is it because they trust us enough to talk about it? And what also happens if we, let's say, out of business, decide to brush them away and to say, I'm sorry, can we talk about this another day? Or like something along that line. You don't want to send a wrong signal to the person who actually feels that you are the trusted person to talk to. But then at the end of the day, they feel like maybe
you're not interested in listening.
Yeah,
I'm guilty of that, I swear, because I've actually told my students before that sorry, we don't have time for this because I have to execute all these materials and deliver them to you. I've got really no time to listen. I have told my students that before upfront.
Then what did they say?
As much as I really want to listen to them, then they are too young to respond, so they just accept it, because they are like 9-year-old kids, and the parents know that they are meant to be picked up by a certain time, and the parents know that the lessons are usually very heavy, so it's very hard to listen to every single one of them tell you stories, because when one child starts, the rest will also continue the story. And then you have like 20 minutes of conversation and then you go, oh no, I'm not done with this still.
Yeah.
I'm not done with my notes.
So that's the dilemma, right, of having classroom time, because classroom time is probably the only time where you can actually talk to your students. Yes. So I think for me as a teacher as well, I really like the one-to-one conversations that I have with my students outside of class. And usually that happens after remedial. Like sometimes when I have to meet them for remedial, and it's a small group remedial, right? Yeah. And then once remedial is done, then you have got students who will leave the classroom, things like that, right? Yes. And then you have got those few, like 1 to 2 students who will like hang around behind. Yes. And then after that, because as a teacher, you kind of want to find out more about their lives, not just about how they're doing in school, but like, the kind of CCAs that they have, what they're involved in, like on the weekends, things like that. I feel like they're happy to share. It's just that I think people don't have time to ask them about all these things. Yeah, so I love all these one-to-one, more cozy conversations, because I realized that I find out more about them than, let's say, looking at the student profile and then figure out like how they're like and all. So I think for me, teaching is a lot more than just teaching, and that's why it's definitely underrated. Yes. But at the same time, I guess we gotta manage our boundaries and energy, because we can't possibly be giving all of our time to every single student for the entire day. So sometimes we really need to let the students know that it's not that we don't want to listen to you, but
we really need the time for something very important and pressing that we need to deliver. And I think that's it. I also feel, I really can empathize with all these children, because really they don't have anyone else to turn to. And thankfully, in this case, like some schools have the privilege of having counselors, dedicated school counselors who are there to listen to the children or the students of the school. But that's it. You need to form that bond between the counselor and the student first through some way. in order for that student to approach these counselors. And not everyone wants to. But when I was in secondary school, my friend had helped introduce me to the student's counselor, and I was very happy to talk to her because she was really, really approachable. So when I met her for the first time, I realized, hey, that takes the weight off the teachers. And that takes some, at least there's someone who cares for you in a school setting enough to want to listen to your stories. So I really am glad that these initiatives are being rolled out. I think there's still more to be done because there's so many students out there who need teachers and depend on them. And parents depend on teachers for sure. Because the parents are not going to be at home all day long. And that's why it's so underrated, right, as a teacher. Because you're the second parent.
You're like the next caregiver.
Exactly. Without you, teachers, what would these parents be doing? They would be nannying their kids all day long. And I don't think any parent would be sane doing that.
Yeah. So definitely teaching is an underrated skill.
Yes, very underrated.
What else do
and underpaid.
What else do we do? What else do we do apart from all of these things? Oh yes, disciplining. Okay, but disciplining is another whole new
game altogether. So there's, besides CQ, communication quotient, I think it's important to communicate well enough to these students.
Isn't that cultural quotient, CQ?
Cultural? Okay, maybe it is.
Maybe you're talking about the way we communicate with.
Yes, communicating to students is very important because the minute we communicate an idea that is...
We need to communicate an idea in an appropriate way that is also safe for them to, easy for them to understand.
And it's objective so that they all can get it. And making sure that they understand and listen well. I think listening is part of communication. So whatever you give and whatever you receive, when you communicate and when you listen, it's both ways. It's a two-way street.
Yeah, and that's a skill that I really, really want to make sure that I can do, I can develop, and I can teach it. So communication, it's also super underrated, right? But I think these days it's becoming more important because most people know that it's something that they need work on.
Yes. Even I myself, I know I'm a work in progress because every time I go for a class, sometimes I'm a bit nervous. Am I really ready? Am I confident? Do I know what I want to tell the kid? Do I know what we are supposed to learn? I get a bit of that.
But you are an extrovert, right? I thought extroverts don't feel like...
Oh, you'd be surprised.
Don't feel like this. I thought only introverts feel that way. Tell me more.
No, even introverts. I know what it's like, but for introverts, but even extroverts also do get the jitters. Like, I can speak very naturally and spontaneously, but there are times when I go, I think I can add on more, but I don't feel like I'm adequately prepared right now. So, you have to tell them that we'll come back to this another day and then we'll elaborate more on that topic because you have other things planned. And because extroverts can be very scatterbrained, especially me, right? I do have a bit of self-diagnosed ADHD. Sometimes my topics can jump from one place to another place. So that's when I realize I'm distracted too and I have to carry myself back to that topic. So focusing on that topic and being very, very intentional about what you want to teach the child is why teaching is also very underrated because you have to focus and you have to bring the child's thoughts back to what you want him or her to learn.
That's it. Okay, side topic, apart from teaching being an underrated skill, I think the question I have for you here is because you mentioned that you can be scatterbrained and you're sometimes all over the place, right? Then how do you deal with a child who is distracted?
Wow.
How do you do with that? Because
play along.
If you are easily distracted, then will you also be distracted by the child who is distracted?
Yes. When I'm teaching halfway and the child suddenly asks me a very random question, Miss Joyce, are you married?
Then
I tell you, I want to tell the child off. Can we focus first? I'll tell you more later.
You can just say no.
Obviously, I'm not, right? Okay, there's no ring whatsoever. I'm just going to try and get the child back to focus, and I'll go, why? Why must you ask me now? Why are you so curious?
They can think about all these things. Thoughts come to them as and when they want. So they don't actually have control over those thoughts. But they have the control over how they're going to respond to those thoughts.
It is a very genuine question. I understand that because when I was a child, I also wondered about my own teachers and whether or not they were married. When was their birthdays, for example? Very kaypoh questions. So I would also ask teachers when their birthday was. And it so happened to me that one of the teachers, she was very nice and she told me her birthday. And turns out that her birthday was the same as mine. And I was like, wow, that's such a beautiful coincidence. And, suddenly I liked her more because of that. So it was like a case where, when students are distracted, right, this can actually help to foster trust.
In relationship building.
Yeah, surprisingly, right, over a birthday thing. So, sometimes when they ask irrelevant things, doesn't matter. It brings you little bit out of what you need to do, but sometimes you never know where it might bring you. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
But I would say I try not to spend too much on these things because I still have a KPI. Ultimately, I still do have a KPI. Maybe at most 5 minutes of irrelevancy. Okay, I think that's fair enough. But not like 20-30 minutes lah. It's a bit too long.
Okay, with that, we have come to the end of this episode.
Bye.
See you
next one.